This man was found frozen in the wild. He died inside an abandoned bus. Next to him was a camera, filled with dozens of final selfies. His name was Christopher McCandless. Chris came from a wealthy family, but never cared much for money. He drove a beat-up car, still earned a full scholarship to Emory. After graduation, he could have gone to Harvard Law, but he made a wild decision, donated all $24,000 he saved, burned his IDs, and hit the road. In June 1990, Chris headed west. His goal, the wilds of Alaska. In Arizona, a flash flood hit. He survived using quick thinking, then burned his plates and cash. He gave himself a new name, Alexander Supertramp. Started a whole new life. Chris was trying to heal, escape wounds from his childhood. Along the way, he met a kind couple. They asked him to stay, but Chris saw it as passing fate, left quietly the next day. In South Dakota, he worked on a farm, became close with the owner, learned to hunt and survive. But when the farmer got arrested, Chris hit the road again.
Let's go. Sorry boys, we're gonna have to shut down for a little while.
What adventure comes next? Follow me. I'll tell you what happened after. He was born into wealth but chose to wander. Said he wanted to escape his family's pain. He gave away all his money, then walked deep into the Alaskan wild. That man was Chris. On the road, Chris met all kinds of people until he reached Colorado. In Colorado, he saw a kayak. It reignited his love for adventure, but the permit wait was 12 years. He didn't want to wait, so he spent all his money, bought that kayak, and rushed into the wild river. He braved the Colorado River.
A mess.
Met a couple along the way. They showed him the route. He passed Horseshoe Bend, floated through Hoover Dam, and reached the Gulf of Mexico. But then, a storm took his kayak. He tried going back to the US. No ID meant border trouble, so he hopped a train to LA. In LA, Chris found a shelter bed, dropped off his stuff, and stepped out for a walk. But what he saw shook him. The streets were broken, full of lost people. Through a restaurant window, he saw folks in suits. That reminded him of the life he escaped. Their fake smiles made Chris feel sick. He couldn't take it, so he jumped another train and left that cold city. But this time, he got caught. Rail cops beat him up and kicked him off. Chris limped back to the bridge he knew, dug up his hidden gear. To reach Alaska, he sometimes bowed to reality, but deep down, he was a born drifter. What happens next to Chris? Follow me. I'll tell you soon. This guy was found frozen in the wild. He died alone in an old, abandoned bus. Next to him was a camera, full of his final, haunting selfies. His name was Christopher McCandless. Chris had a thing for adventure. In December of '91, he made it to one of the loneliest towns in America. That's where he randomly met Tracy. She was full of life, like the kind of first crush you dream about. She walked right up and said hey. The two of them took a walk, listened to an old man talk about Salvation Mountain. Tracy couldn't take her eyes off Chris. You could see the shyness in her smile. They pressed their hands into a tree trunk, their shadows, side by side in the sunset, perfect. For Chris, it was a rare moment of peace. Feelings like Tracy's weren't rare out there. That desert had a way of pulling the real you out. Far from the noise, people finally stopped pretending. They came to heal, and for a while, so did Chris. He and Tracy grew close.
We can't do that.
But Chris wasn't looking for love. He was too focused, too restless. Funny enough, that made Tracy like him more. But Chris couldn't stay. Alaska was calling. He knew this wasn't the end of his road. So once again, he moved on. What happened next in Chris's journey? Hit follow. I'll tell you the rest soon.